Hey guys, Chris here. Today I'm heading back to the Cedar Grove this evening, and we are in the Sierra Nevada mountains, and I have a story about a family who bought some acreage, some land in West Virginia, 10 acres, and over the course of several months, what happened to them made them decide to sell the land and move. Also, before that, I have a 911 call that's really interesting. And then prior to that, I have some really kind of spooky footage I put together for you guys. So, bust out the popcorn. Roll them.
What are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my central light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something. It looks like a man. I don't know what it was. Just that it ran across the yard.
Okay. You've had problems in the neighborhood before?
Yeah, my dog was killed here just recently. I don't know what it was. Whatever it is, it's running. I couldn't catch it if I was going to chase it. But whatever it was standing up. I'm out here looking through the window now and I don't see anything. I don't want to go outside. Jesus Christ, you better...
Sure.
Dio!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Oh, and the guy is on foot.
I don't know what... It's a big... real big person. That's all I can say.
Okay, but it is a person.
Yeah, I'd say it was a person, somebody really big. But he's all in black.
Is he a black male or a white male? Did you actually see whether, or was he just wearing black?
He's all black and he's big.
For tonight's beer, I have, it's called the Dirty Wookie by the Brewer's Cabinet. That's out of Reno, Nevada here, just north of here. So, all right, I'm gonna drop that in the creek. I like this spot. It's good to be back here. I did notice a couple mosquitoes a few minutes ago. I'm not used to that up in the Sierra Nevadas. I grew up in Minnesota, and that is the state bird, the mosquito. But up here, yeah, I don't normally get any, so I was hoping it doesn't get worse, but it seemed to have gotten better, so that's cool. Anyways, we got the dirty Wookiee. Gonna be cracking that one open. Cheers. A little late, but cheers. Also, I brought for my way out, I got my headlamp, but I also brought the big gun. Who's out there? It's always good to have good lighting. You never know if you need it. So I thought, yeah, if I'm coming out after dark again, I always seem to hike out after dark. It's kind of my deal. So okay, so this next story takes place in West Virginia, the Appalachian Mountains. A man named Ben bought 10 acres of land in West Virginia near Mount Nebo. It had a creek running through it, had a small cabin, and he worked in Mount Nebo. Would commute there. It was about 8 miles away from their land. And this land backed up to state land, the Kanawha State Forest, I believe. Thousands of acres of land. Very mountainous, wooded, creeks, rivers, lakes, little waterfalls on these creeks. They're just beautiful. If you see pictures of them, I'd like to go there sometime. West Virginia and the Appalachian Mountains. Ben had a good friend that came out one time, and his friend Kevin just loved it. He loved hiking around and hanging out at the property, and he asked them after a few trips coming out if he could put a small home, a tiny house, one of those little ones, teeny ones, on the property. And Ben said, yeah, they were good friends, and he said, yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool. Yeah, let's do that. So Kevin put this tiny house about 50 yards from Ben's cabin, and Kevin ended up working for Ben, so they would commute to work every day. And one day they came home, and it was evening, it was after dark, well after dark, and they, up behind the houses, kind of like this, it's flat and then it goes up pretty steep, they could hear something up there pacing back and forth at the top of this small ridge just above the cabin in the tiny house. And it was breathing really heavy, kind of blowing almost. Just gonna kind of thing like that. And they listened for several minutes and didn't really know what to think of it, so they parted ways, said goodnight, and went home, went to bed. The next morning, Ben goes over to Kevin's tiny house in the truck to pick him up for the day to go to work. Kevin comes out, and he looks really bad. He's exhausted. And he looked kind of freaked out, very concerned. And he gets into the truck, and Ben's like, what the heck's going on with you? Are you okay, man? And Kevin says, I was up most of the night. The dog was barking and growling most of the night with me. And something was throwing rocks and tree limbs at the back side of this tiny house that he was living in. And it was really loud. He couldn't sleep. And then the dog's barking, and something was out there, making this ruckus on the side of the back side of the house. And he went out there a couple times with a flashlight, didn't see anything. It was quiet again. He didn't know what to think about. He'd go back in. Several minutes would go by, and it would start up again. And he just had he was fairly horrified, actually, by this. And so they went to work, and just a few days went by. And Ben's wife said, after he came home from work, he said, I was out in the garden today, just to let you know, I just had this funny feeling that was being watched while she was in the backyard working in the flower beds and stuff. And Ben said, okay, that's interesting. Did you see anything? No. Did you hear anything? No. And she just had this feeling of being watched. And I've never had that feeling. I've heard people have it. I wonder if it has to do with something like it's kind of a predator-prey kind of instinctual thing, where the predator's watching and the prey just kind of senses something's not right. That's kind of my theory on it, but I've never experienced that, and who knows, that maybe I will sometime. Hopefully not tonight. And so, they didn't think much about that, but they also noticed that week that in the yard, some things were knocked over. They had a bird bath that was knocked down. They had some logs against the shed, and some of them were just kind of knocked over and kind of away from the pile. And they're like, okay, I don't know, probably some bears meddling around. They really didn't know what to think. So it was getting close to Halloween. They got their first snow, and they were cutting wood. They've been doing quite a bit of wood cutting. And that particular night, they were in the back and they were splitting wood behind the cabin. And they got a lot of work done. It was a really good night, productive night. And Ben noticed, there was kind of a game trail from the ridge working its way down to the creek. He never noticed it before, but being in the back that night, he just really kind of spent so much time there. He kind of noticed this trail. Didn't think too much about it. Just assumed it was a deer trail or something. Wasn't sure what it was for sure. But that night they went to bed. About almost 11 o'clock, they were just about to sleep, and they heard on the back of the cabin some small rocks hitting the back of the cabin. And then it got louder, like the rocks were getting bigger. So Ben gets out of bed. The wife is really concerned. Like, okay, what the heck's going on here? Ben goes out, gets the phone, calls Kevin down at the tiny house, and he says, are you thinking he might be messing around with him or something? He didn't know. And he pulled the phone away from his head, and he could actually hear Kevin's house, because it's 50 yards down that way. He could hear something hitting his house as well. And he said, hey, what's going on down there? And he said, yeah, some rocks are hitting my house as well. And so Ben says, okay, come on up, bring the gun and the dogs, and let's meet on my front porch. We're going to try to figure this thing out. So they both come out, meet on the front porch. Both have their shotguns. Both have their dogs. They got flashlights. And they decide, okay, let's get off the porch and let's go around back, head up into the trees, and see if we can figure something out here. And the dogs were acting really extremely anxious, and they're barking and yelping. They're barking like there was something like right there, like quick barks. You know how when they know something's there, and they're and they looked with the flashlights, looked, and they didn't see anything. They saw some disturbed rocks at the back of the house, and they're like, okay, I don't know, so let's just call it a night. I don't know what else to say. They didn't see anything, so they went back in, and it was quiet the rest of the night. So Thanksgiving came and went. Christmas was coming up, and all that activity, it seemed to die down, which was really good. Ben was pretty happy about that, just kind of hoping this thing would just all go away. And he went to pick up Kevin one morning down at the tiny house, get the pickup truck, got the coffee going, and Kevin comes out, and he is visibly distressed, and he was just really shaken up, and he gets in the truck, and Ben again is like, what happened this time? And Kevin says he was up all night, sitting in his chair with his gun across his lap and his dog out front growling, these low growls, because there was something on his front porch messing around with his front door, kind of brushing up against it, and doorknob shaking. And he was horrified about this whole thing, just scared out of his mind that he spent the whole night, but he was just kind of determined to ride through this thing with the gun and the dog and everything. And Ben thought, wow, this is getting crazy. And a few days went by, and Ben's at his house. It's 2 a.m. The family, everyone's sound asleep. It's middle of the night, right? 2 a.m. And in the back of the house, I hear this loud boom, boom, boom. And the house is just like shaking. It sounded like somebody had a 2x4 and was just out there, just with all their might, slamming the back of this little cabin. The kids were screaming. The wife was crying. They fled down to the bedroom, locked the door. Kevin could hear up to Ben's house the sound, and so Kevin calls Ben and says, "Are you okay? What's going on up there?" And goes, "I don't know, I'm hearing these loud crashing sounds in the back of the cabin here." So they decided again to meet. Let's meet right in the front yard here with the guns and the dogs and the flashlights. So they met 2:10 in the morning or whatever it was. And they head up towards the ridge, and the dogs are going crazy. Just, you know, dogs get when they see something. And dogs can see in the dark a lot better than we can. It's kind of like cats too. They can see really well in the dark. And they're looking with the flashlights up towards the ridge. And they don't see anything, And then they saw it. Just outside of the trees, this thing standing there, big shoulders, about 8.5 feet tall, and Ben is 6 feet 2 inches tall, and this thing was at least 2.5 feet taller than him. And whatever it was, they shined the light on it, and it put its arm up like this to block the light, and then it slowly brought it down, and they could see the eyes. The eyes were red. And that doesn't mean that in daytime the eyes would be red. They might be black, I don't know. But when the light hits certain things, it reflects and it comes back as yellow or white or red. Well, these came back as red because of the flashlight, the certain light in the flashlight. And the dogs were going crazy, and Ben, just for like a moment, like the world like stopped. He was just kind of this, he just saw this thing, it was just unreal, and it was almost like, it was like quiet, almost just for a moment. And he was just saw this thing standing there, and then it just quickly went back into the trees and was gone. And then all of a sudden he kind of snapped back to reality, so to speak. and then all he heard, the commotion, and the dogs were barking, and Kevin was going, "What the F was that? What the, did you see that? Oh my God." And then Ben is like, I don't know what the hell that was. And then all of a sudden the fear kicked in, you know, because there's this, the reality, your brain catches up with the reality of what's going on, and then all of a sudden, whew, now the fear kicks in. And they both had this really strong urge to run, to get out of there. And the dogs were afraid at this point. The dogs were turning and wanting to go back. And so they turned and ran down the hill with the dogs leading the way. And behind them, they heard this really loud roar, just this roar. And they could just feel it like right through their chest. And they ran and got into the house, and they all stayed together in the cabin with the guns and stayed with the family till the next morning, till the sun came up. And that day, Kevin moved out. He was done. And Ben waited till spring, and then he sold his property and he moved out of the area as well. So that's my story for tonight, you guys. And I think I told it just in time because the sun is dropping really fast now. So, but I should be fine. I got my got the big gun here, so that'll help me get me out of here. But yeah, it's all good. I got about a mile or so to hike out, and I know the trail pretty well. But yeah, a lot of fun, you guys. I really appreciate you guys listening to my videos, and I think I'm gonna be at the my base camp this weekend. So I'll have a story from the hot tent. Kind of miss my hot tent. And I'm gonna see Jeanette this weekend, so it'll be all good. So hey, if you guys like hiking and backpacking and stories about the strange, unexplained, and things that go bump in the night, please like, subscribe, and comment. I would really appreciate that. I'm serious. I like your comments. You guys it's a great little community we have. All right, you guys, I think I am going to finish my beer here and hike on out of here. So we will see you on the next one. And as always, keep hiking.